Well, last week I got the right hand, left hand threads turned for this turnbuckle. Now I need to make the ears that will actually attach to the leather thorough braces. I'll still need to turn these nut portions down to taper to fit the same style as these old ones. And then for these ears, 3/8 by 3/4, and then tapered down by 1.5 inches. I'm actually going to take this 3/8 by 1.5, and I'm going to draw this out. I'm going to allow about 2/3 of space here. When I draw this out, I'm going to bring this down to a 3/4 by 3/8. So I'm actually going to double my length. So I've got about 5 inches in here. If I allow 6 inches here, I'm going to end up with close to 12 inches in overall length. By the time I draw this out and allow another tab here for the end, I think this whole piece I'm going to be able to get all 4 of my ears on for this turnbuckle. Now I did put a 3/8 kiss block on the bottom anvil of my hammer. That'll allow me to make sure I keep my 3/8 thickness. Well, see how close we came. About right for length. Now, looks like these need to be overall, I need to be about 9 inches. So if I come back 9 1/4, that'll allow me some welding room. See what I have for length here. Oh, I've got plenty. 9 1/4, I'm just about right on that one. Evidently came a little stronger on this one. I'm going to split that right there. Well, while those irons are cooling down, where I square punched the ends to match these, I've got to take this nut on both ends and taper them down to where they kind of match the taper on this old style. I'm a little strong here perhaps as well. Old ones look like they're about 1 3/8. I used 1.5 inches. So I'm going to try to put a taper in these, probably on the lathe, and get them ready to where I can weld these ears onto this nut. Well, I'm going to give me a little shoulder here, 1/4 inch or so, take it down to the 1 3/8. We're 1 3/8 there. So that'll give me a shoulder to grab a hold of. And this small end seems to measure about 1 1/8 inches. So I need to taper down to about right there. I'm just going to kind of freehand this in. That's about as close as I can get to that chuck. If I change my bit a little bit, I can kind of smooth that out a little bit. Yeah, I'll just take this off by hand, I think. Yeah, we're kind of in the ballpark there, I think. So now I just need to get these kind of glued together. These are still square. These have rounded corners. They aren't full half round. I have swages that will do half round, but these seem to be more of an oval shape. So I thought about swaging these out, but I think I'll just take my flap disc and I can put these round corners on this and kind of shape this. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that first before I actually stick these together. Shape these out and see if I can get them to look a little closer to these. Now you've seen my welding bench lots of times. I have two 4.5-inch Makita grinders. One I have a flap disc on it, and the other I have a solid hard grinding disc. And then in my 7-inch I also keep it in a hard disc and a flap. Right now I have a flap disc on it, and I do like these ceramic flap discs. They just run a little bit cooler, but I do a lot of hogging with that. I started back with buying Makita tools clear back in 1980. This was the very first one I bought back when there was no plastic. This is an all steel case. It's still usable. I need to send it back in and get bearings put back into it again. I've had this rebuilt probably 3 or 4 times in the 40 years that I've had it. I don't use it so much anymore. In fact, I don't use it at all anymore. But it's just kind of one of the old Makita tools that convinced me to start using them. When I did start, I started using Bosch early on in my 7-inch grinders, and as they wore out, I just have continued to migrate toward Makita. So I've mentioned in my descriptions a number of different times. I have a lot of Makita tools listed in that description. I'm not endorsed by Makita. I don't get sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. I just like Makita tools. Yeah, we'll see how that kind of matches up. So these original ones are about 3/4 of an inch inside here. Maybe even just a hair shy. Remember, I have a 5/8 thread. So I'd like to weld these in really close, but I don't want to get weld in my threads to where I kind of mess them up. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do, I put just a slight bevel on the back end of these, and I'm going to bevel this back just down shy of this thread here, and I'll probably do it at about a 3/4, so it'll fit in about like so. I'll be flush on the top. I'll still clear my bolt in the center. And if I bevel this back far enough, I can get down and get a weld clear to this point. I'm going to put a 3/4 inch wood block in here and sandwich it, so when I actually weld the two together, they'll be in place and they'll be parallel to each other. I think this will allow me enough room to get right down to that point and get a pretty solid weld and not mess up my threads inside. So when these are actually used on the leather, they'll be an inch thick here, but just for the sake of welding them up inside, welding them up to the nuts, I'm going to hold them right at 3/4. But that'll hold them in place so I can weld them to the nut. Have that thread centered inside. I'm going to center it up this way. Make sure my threads are in line. I'm going to hold it in place here. I think we're going to be pretty close there. I think it'll function. Now I just have to dress that up a bit, see if we can make it look a little more presentable. So doing a quick comparison, looks like maybe these are a little fuller in these corners. I think I'll fill that in just a bit. And I might be a little steep on my corners here. I think I might put a little more round to match those. Being that this was cast, we have round corners inside. Where I welded it, I'm pretty square. I'm afraid to get inside there to weld that. I don't want to mess up those threads. If I filled in these corners, that would add a little more strength, and it would actually make it look a little closer to the original one. So after all my fiddling around and playing, this is where I've ended up at. I did round out these corners, put a little more slope in my shoulders here. Maybe I'm, what, 1/4 of an inch longer than the old ones, which isn't going to hurt anything. But such as it is, that's where I'm at, and I think it'll work. So this is what I'm going to end up with. Now the last step on this whole process is going to be to actually run them back through the forge. When I'm doing a weld like this that has such structural strength that is necessary, I'm going to go back and heat this all up in the coal forge. I prefer coal as opposed to propane because coal has carbon in it, and I like to have that carbon content. Number of things these are called is annealing, stress relieving, but that'll be the last step, and then that whole process will get rid of all these grinder marks as well. Well, that whole process takes away this new fabrication look. So So it looks like they're just kind of one piece, maybe even cast. I'm going to run them through the sandblaster so they have the same finish as these old originals. Put some paint on them and it'll function. So this is where we're at after I sandblasted them. So this is where I ended up. 2 turnbuckles. So all said and done, it's a doable. First time I've ever done an old style turnbuckle for these thorough braces. Question is, man, was it worth all that trouble? Thing about it is, without this second turnbuckle, that coach doesn't go on the undercarriage. This is what holds the whole suspension. So value, what is it worth? I could have taken something and just welded ugly old stuff to it, but that's not what I'm all about. I like to go back to what it was originally. So I had a pattern. So to me, it was worth it. I like the challenge to myself. Can I duplicate old style? It's doable. Now, is it worth it to the customer? Well, I think so. This coach doesn't run without it. So anyway, was it worth it? I think so. Appreciate you following along. Thanks for watching.